Good morning. I'm Reverend Tina. I am the Spiritual Education and Youth and Family Minister. Welcome, everybody. Hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day yesterday.
And I'm Jimmy Scott, Pastoral Care Minister. Reverend Richard is not here this morning. He has a bit of the bug, but Reverend Tina has an incredible lesson in store for us, so we welcome her here this morning.
Thank you, and it's my intention this morning to hopefully just open your hearts wide, just open the doors of your hearts to bring forth the true, authentic self that you are so that God can fulfill that divine will that only is for you this morning. So let's do it.
All right, works for me. So let's take our mission statement together. Unity of Phoenix is a loving spiritual community that welcomes all people and honors all paths to God. We are dedicated to transforming lives by inspiring and awakening individuals to discover God's Spirit within them. And now is that time in our service for a time of prayer and meditation. So if you have your cell phones with you, I want to invite you to place those either on silence or vibrate. Todd will lead us in our meditational song.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. I can feel the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
So I invite you to take just a moment now to allow your mind to slow down. Just intentionally set aside all the busyness of your life, all the activities of your day. Give yourself permission to be fully present to the current moment. The song says, I can feel God's mighty power. Just take a moment to breathe and relax. And as you turn ever more inwardly, allow yourself to feel that mighty power. The power of love, the power of healing, the power of appreciation. The power of aliveness. Just feeling the heartbeat. And then just experiencing the joyfulness. That you're here on this planet for another day. Another week, another month, another year. Another lifetime. So one more time, just a deep breath. Shift around and get comfortable in your seat. And as we turn ever more inwardly and ever deeper into ourselves, just find that still point of quietness. And just rest. As we celebrate the gift of love this weekend, I invite you to be mindful of all the people in this world that you love, the love that you hold in your heart for them, for God, and the love that you hold for yourself. And if you can't feel that, I invite you to envision it. To hold the ideal in your mind's eye. We are reminded in the scriptures that God is love. Therefore, God is life. And we're all blessed with that one life. So we give thanks for this time of prayer, this time of meditation, this time of reflection upon that which is most important. And so it is. Amen.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
How are you doing this morning? Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're going to be talking about love, of course, and how love changes everything. But we're going to talk about how love, working in and through each of us, through our authentic selves, helps to manifest your life purpose, the will of God for you, your highest good to manifest. What does it take to stay centered in God? Think about that for a moment. How do we presence the Christ within us during those challenging times in life, in the face of our so-called enemies? And I'm not necessarily talking about a person. The principle that we're going to be working with this morning is that the will of God is always active and at work in your life, no matter what. That will is ready to bring forth your highest good through the power or the faculty of love. And that is brought forth through your authentic self. By facing those things that stand in our way. Loving yourself enough to face those fears. And loving others enough to be a safe place for them to do the same. So that we come into our wholeness. Love is the power that changes everything. Everything. In Romans 12:2, Paul says this, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your minds, that you may discern what is the will of God, what is acceptable and perfect." What is this renewing of the mind? Well, I believe that renewing comes from self-observation, being willing to take a look at oneself, getting to know how we operate in life, how we make decisions. Why do we make the decisions and choices that we make? Why do we allow certain things to stop us? And by getting to know ourselves, then we're able to then change those things that aren't working. In Unity, we teach the practice of denials and affirmation. The purpose for that is to allow the cleansing of the mind, to be able to allow the negative thoughts or negative beliefs, those things that don't work for us, to be dissolved and removed from who we are. Those old thought patterns, some of them become the enemies because they stand in our way of our spiritual growth. And we do this by being willing to face those things that we call the enemy and renaming them, as Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, teaches us in the book New Ways to Solve Old Problems, for those of you who like to read. She teaches us to rename our enemies, rename those challenges. Don't call them hard and difficult and against us. Change it. Call it a life lesson, a teacher of truth. Call it good because something manifests good from it. Jesus said it this way, "You have heard it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. I say that this way. In other words, love that which appears to be against you, and commune or become one with or embrace prayer, that which causes you pain. You might say, but I don't like pain. I don't want to embrace it. Dr. Phil says it this way: you can't fix it if you don't know it's broke. If you can't acknowledge it, you can't change it. Sometimes we just have to recognize where the pain is coming from, where the suffering, where the difficulties. In this way, we can begin to free ourselves up. And we free ourselves up by practicing the presence of God, not just when it's easy, but during those times that we are challenged. And we do this because love changes everything. Love is the power that harmonizes all situations to bring forth healing. So again, what does it take to stay centered in God? So, are you armed for a battle in life, or are you open to love? So I'm going to share one of my favorite stories from the Bible, David and Goliath. Most of us have heard this story probably a few times in our life. David was a young shepherd boy, just a young boy. And his father, Jesse, sent him to take bread to his brothers who were in the Israelites' army. And this army had come up against the Philistines. Goliath was a part of that army, and they were giants. Goliath was taunting the Israelites across the valley from one side of the mountain to the other. And the Israelites were so afraid of these giants that they would not take action and do battle. So David, as he was taking bread to his brothers, heard Goliath denouncing God. Now, David loved God with all his heart, and he didn't like this. So he decided to take this on himself, and he went to King Saul, who was the ruler at that time. And he said, I will do battle with this giant, and I will slay him. Now, I'm paraphrasing. I'm only saying what maybe I think he said. But here's this young boy, young shepherd boy. This entire army of the Israelites would not go face this giant, but he volunteered to go forth and do it. Well, it took some convincing, but he did convince King Saul to let him go. He told him, he said, I've killed a lion, I've killed a bear. I can surely slay this giant. King Saul agreed, but before he let David go, he took out his own armor and put it upon David and his helmet and gave him his sword. Now this young shepherd boy, and I always think of my little one Tave because he's a small boy. I can just see him with armor suited up and just weighted down and just clunking around. But he told Saul, he said, I can't move, I can't walk. This is not who I am. I can't move freely. He removed the armor. He took the sword, grabbed his slingshot and the 5 stones, and he left to go slay the giant. Now you might say, Reverend Tina, what does this have to do with me and my life today? Well, I'm going to tell you. David metaphysically represents the power of love. He had a great love for God. That's what his name represents biblically. Saul, King Saul, represents the personal will, that ruling personal consciousness of our life, that tries to protect us, thinks it knows best most of the time. Of course, the Israelites, their army, they represent those spiritual truths and ideas, those things that we're learning in our lives, that long to rise up and be powerful and strong within us. And of course, Goliath, the giant, represents all those challenges and difficulties that we face in life that are to be overcome through the truth of our being. So see how the story relates? Yeah. So how many of you have a Goliath in your life? I don't know about you, but I've had a few. Quite a few. So of course we know that David slew the giant, and they celebrated, and a new lesson was learned. Love is the power that overcomes all difficulties, that heals all situations, and brings harmony and health and wholeness. Love within us, just like David was so anxious to go forth and prove that giant wrong. Love within us is always anxious and ready and excited to diffuse the challenges that we face, to dissolve the fears that we're up against, to harmonize and bring into peace those mind games that we play with ourselves and one another. Unconditional, accepting love has the capacity to accept our differences, overcome those fears, move through any boundaries that we may have placed in our life that causes separation from our humanity. It has the ability to expand our consciousness to embrace all of who we are and all of our relationships to one another. Love is a powerful thing. And of course, we know that love is just another name for God. It's interesting to me how Saul placed that armor on David. So I ask you this, what is the armor that you've put on in your life? What is the protection that your personal will has said that you must have to make it in this world, to face the challenges and to try to overcome? Some of us build walls up so high, so secure, that nobody can get in. We want them to get in. We want their love, but we're afraid to take that risk. And so we have built the walls up within our lives, and we spend our lives looking over the wall or through it, wishing and hoping and praying that one day we'll have that love. I had that experience once where I was in a personal effectiveness course, and it was a group exercise, and there were about 10 people in front of me, very excitedly shouting, "What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?" All at the same time. You don't have time to think, and you just respond with the things that you want in life. And it's designed to have those spontaneous things to come up so that you have an experience of it, those unexpected things. One of the things that came out for me was, I want to feel loved. And I knew in the instant that I said it, that that was a different statement that I'd ever said before in my life. I had grown up saying I wanted to be loved, but I wanted to feel loved. And I knew in that moment that I had built my walls up so high, protecting myself from the disappointments in life and the heartbreaks, that I wasn't letting the love in. I realized there were a lot of people in my life who loved me, But I wasn't able to feel and experience the love in the way I wanted to because I built my walls up too thick and too tall. So I made a choice. And that choice was to take the risk so that I could be loved and feel that love, to let it in. I had to bring those walls down, and it took a lot of work because it took many years of constructing those walls. Didn't take quite as long to bring them down, though. But once I let them down and I allowed myself just to be real and authentic and exposed and vulnerable and take the risk of being hurt again, see, it was the risk of being hurt was greater. Having the love I wanted was more important than getting hurt. That was a challenge I had to overcome. It was a giant problem in my life. But it was the desire for that love that helped me heal that place in my life. What's the armor that you wear today? What are the fears? What are the challenges? What are the obstacles that you face that you desire to overcome? Are you facing Goliath with your personal will or with the power of love, knowing that God is that love? God is that power. God is the protection. God is your all in all, the Spirit within you. You have the power to overcome any obstacle and all challenges that you face. You see, most of us are praying for the mountains to be removed from our life, when really, all we need to do is climb them. Anybody climbed a few mountains in here? We live in the state of Arizona. I'm sure we've got some mountain climbers, right? It's not easy to climb mountains. I'll share a brief story with you. About a week ago, I went to a conference at a local church. It was the closing ceremonies of that conference, an evening service. And I thought there was going to be a speaker that night, so I was all excited to go here, and it was the Dream Conference, geared towards ministers in accomplishing their goals and what they feel like their calling is, and being able to overcome the obstacles and have the support in their lives to go for that and help build those within their churches from various denominations all over the place. There were about 4,000 people at the conference. And so I got there, and they started with all this great, beautiful music, and they did about 4 or 5 songs, and it was just heaven. I was just wonderful, and I was just ready for the speaker to start. And the senior minister got up, and he said, "We're going to ask the music team to play one more song, and about halfway through, we're going to go over to the mountain, and we're going to join together. We want everyone to follow us up there, and we're going to, those of you who want to climb the mountain, to go pray on the mountain, we're going to ask you to do that. We're going to go over to the prayer chapel, and so we'll be all over there, and the musicians will be there. If you're not able, you can stay here with the worship team." And I was like, what? We're going to go climb a mountain? We're going to go pray on the mountain? What are we doing? But my daughter, who was with me, Emery, she's 7 years old, she said, "Oh boy, Mommy, let's go." I'm like, "Okay, we'll go. So we went over to the base of the mountain, and I thought we were going to sit in the glass prayer chapel and listen to the music and pray and be with people in that way. But no, she wouldn't have anything to do but to climb the mountain. "Mommy, please, let's climb the mountain, at least part of the way." Well, the other story behind that is I wasn't prepared to climb the mountain, and I had on those really cute black open-toed spiked heel boots that I have. And yeah, you know which ones I'm talking about. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, how am I going to climb this mountain? Wow. But she insisted, and I said, "Okay, Emery, we'll go part of the way. You know, I'll go as far as I can. I don't know if I can do it, and I certainly can't take my shoes off and climb on these rocks. It's dark. I can't see what I'm stepping on, but we'll go. So I started climbing. Wow, to my surprise, the boots really worked. Those spikes kind of dug into the ground, and it was a little easier to go up the mountain. Couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, maybe I should wear boots more often to go up the mountain. But we got about a quarter of the way, and I thought, my mind was saying, Saul was speaking to me, saying, okay, it's not safe to go up this mountain in the hills. You really don't need to go any further. And I told her, I said, okay, we're going to stop here, Emery. And she said, oh, Mommy, please, please. And, of course, I have my purse with me, too, which is like a piece of luggage. And so she said, Mommy, I'll carry your purse. Please, let's just go a little further. And she grabbed my purse. She said, come on, come on. She was grabbing me by the hand, and she was pulling me. So she was David in the story, see? And, yeah, I know. I was laughing, too. I was laughing through the whole thing, I tell you. Now, the other part of that story is I have a fear of heights. I don't like being in high places. So I wasn't really looking forward to being at the top of that peak. So we continued to go. She held my hand, guiding me along the path. She was a little closer, see, she could see a little better. So we went about halfway up, and of course it starts getting steeper. And I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool. I'm getting there. And I said, Emery, I think this is about as far as we need to go, honey. I said, this is great. We had a really nice view. It's really beautiful. And she said, but Mommy, please, I want to go to the top. And I said, Emery, you're just going to have to accept it. I have on high heels. I don't think I can go to the top. But I'm going to try. I'll go as far as I can. So by then, I realized I was right in the big middle of a metaphysical reality moment. I was facing the mountains of my life because I began to think about the times that I was just almost there and gave up. I was almost there and allowed the obstacle or challenge to stop me. I was almost there and made a different choice. I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show my daughter that we can get to the top of the mountain. I want to be a living example to her that she can climb to the top and to not let a little thing like high heels get in her way. And she's a master at walking in high heels, so I don't think that'll ever be her problem. But I got to the top of that mountain. And just before we got there, the encouraging little David that she was, loving me with all her little heart, she said, don't look down, Mommy, don't look down. She knew I didn't like heights. I said, don't worry, Emery, I'm not going to. I'm going to go up there and sit down before I look down. So I did. I got to the top, and I sat there, and the view was just phenomenal. There were 4,000 people all over the mountain and at the base of the mountain and in the glass prayer chapel. And they were all praying together. There were small groups praying with one another to reach their goals, to fulfill their dream, to reveal what the calling or what the dream was to be. And it was just such a beautiful, beautiful sight. Some people were praying alone. Some were praying out loud. Some were praying in the silence. People were singing at the base of the mountain. And it was just one of the most profound, beautiful experiences. You see, if you don't go to the top of the mountain, you don't get that kind of view. You get a view, but you don't get that view. And I was so filled with joy and life. And I said, okay, Emery, now it's time for us to go down. Of course, that was another challenge. That was another mountain before me, but this time it was going down the mountain. But you know what? God provides for our every need when we're willing to trust, surrender, let go, be in the moment of who we are and what we're about. And as I began to go down that mountain, there was a bush that I was able to grab hold of, had some strong branches, and get down a little further. And then another bush on that side, and then another one. And where there wasn't a bush, guess what? There was the hand of God that would reach before me and say, let me help you down. Too many times, we don't allow ourselves to go to the mountaintop, to achieve our goals, to be who God created us to be. Too many times we let obstacles overcome us and not allow the love that we are, the truth of who we are, express. Another time in my life, I was 16 years old and I was in my 21st school. We moved a lot. My mother had been married quite a few times. My grandmother raised me till I was 10 years old. And she taught me to love God, to trust God, to put my faith in God, and that with God, all things are possible. But at 16 years old, at this time in my life, the only man that I ever really knew as a father figure in my life, he and my mother divorced. I'd been in 4 schools, was a sophomore in high school. I was confused, I was hurt, I was depressed, I was on the verge of giving up. I was just grieving and mourning and suffering loss. And I really didn't have anybody to turn to at that time. And I was sitting in the classroom, and I couldn't focus. I couldn't hear the lesson. I couldn't hear the teacher. And I began to write. And this is what I wrote in 1976, and basically where I believe that my true ministry began. And it's entitled, Loving, Touching, and Being Set Free. If only the hands that reach could touch, how wonderful things would be, loving and knowing all things we'd see. If only the hearts that love could love, how beautiful life would be. Colors glowing in people's faces. There's no time to criticize each other's races. If only the freedom sought could set free, a peaceful world this world would be. Laughing eyes and open smiles. Love would spread mile after mile. And if only the God who lives up above could find in us all his special love, what an experience it would be. Every soul on earth, loving, touching, and being set free. My ministry is one of authenticity, freeing up the space for people to be right where they are in life. And we're in different places at different times. Sometimes we're grieving a loss. Sometimes we're facing an obstacle or a challenge. And sometimes we're overjoyed with accomplishment and relationship. But the power is being freed up to be who you are, where you are, and knowing that you are loved and that you are safe and that you are embraced and held in the love of God. And that love can change everything. Because love is the power that heals all things, that harmonizes all situations. There's no greater thing than love in life. No greater thing. So I ask you again, is there a Goliath in your life that is challenging you with fear, keeping you from reaching out and being the presence of love, the presence of God in this world? And I invite you to remove whatever armor that you have put on for protection. Remove it so that you can be who God created you to be, your authentic, true self and be that presence of love that faces whatever the enemy is, that faces the Goliaths in your life and diffuses those situations and brings them into wholeness. Embrace one another. Love the diversity that this world provides. Love one another. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Love each other right where you are in this moment and the next. And then allow the will of God to manifest in you and through you. God bless you.
So let's take our affirmation together. Who's leading?
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is always well. That is so true. Awesome. You guys rock.
There be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Have a great week, everyone.